I want to welcome Hannah Irons and Emily Gill and Alex Gaynor and Matt Baillargeon, who have brought along their very different types of horses up to the Grand Prix level. They haven't all competed with the Grand Prix, but they've brought them up to that level. Certainly not what we normally see at the Grand Prix level in dressage. So let me see. I haven't, wait, I thought I had this under control. Can you all, are you all muted except you guys? Everybody's muted. Let's see, do we have everybody muted? I'm just double checking. Sorry. Okay, I think we're all good. So don't hesitate to write a note in the chats. So we'll start with a question about how the horse that you train came into your life. How old were you when you got it, and how old was the horse? So I'm going to start with Alex, because you come up first on my screen.
Okay. So my horse is an off-track thoroughbred. I got him when he was 9 and I was, I think, 15. I actually went to a Courtney King Dye clinic with my then quarter horse, and I was approached by this woman who was telling me, I have this horse for, I have this horse, would you want to come try him? And my dad's like, well, how much do you want for him? Like, we're not really going to buy anything. She's like, well, just come try him. He's 20 minutes away. And I think I would just give him to you guys. So I went and tried him, and I was, 15. So I didn't know what the heck I was riding. I was just like, cool, another horse to ride. And she basically said I could take him, and if it didn't work out, I could bring him back. And so I took him that weekend.
Alex, why do you think she chose you to offer the horse to?
I think she saw something in the clinic that she thought that we might be a good match, because I was riding my quarter horse, and actually at that clinic I only had one ride with Courtney, and she actually asked if I was riding the second day, and I said I wasn't because they didn't have any room, and Courtney actually ended up taking her lunch to teach me that day so I could fit in for the second day, which was really awesome, Courtney, of course. So yeah.
So you must have impressed both the lady and Courtney in some way.
Yeah, I guess. On my little quarter horse, but we did it.
Hannah, how about, I'm just taking you as I see you on the screen. How about how you got started with your little paint?
Yeah, so actually when I was 10, my first pony, we still have her, she's just a lesson pony now. She was a little Welsh paint. Her butt is about 6 inches higher than her withers. She was a hunter pony. We did 4-H and pony club. She was 5 when we bought her, and about 9 months later, she kept getting like fatter and fatter, and the vet was like, oh, you're feeding her too much, or she needs to be wormed. That poor thing got wormed like 6 times that year because like it was weird. Her ribs would show, but she just had a big belly. And I was still showing and whatever. Anyway, turns out she is pregnant to a Gypsy Vanner Cobb. They had tried to breed her, and the vet said she didn't take, so they sold her to us. And so that's how Charmer came into my life. That was 11 years ago. I was 9. He was the best surprise I could ever ask for. We named him my Lucky Charm. And I didn't know at the time really even what dressage was. And I planned on just jumping him because that's what I did. That's what his mom did. And yeah, I would never have guessed this is where our journey would take us.
Okay. Emily.
I got Kahlua. I was about 12 years old, and I started out showing Morgan, so I was at a Morgan facility, and I was showing his half-brother at the time, and my trainer told my parents that I should probably get a younger horse because I was showing my older Morgan. And so my parents, they like showed me a video of this chestnut horse running around, and I was like, oh, he's so pretty, and then they were tricking me. They're like, oh, we can't get him. And I was like, oh, that's fine, whatever. So one day they like pulled me out of school, and I was so mad, which is so weird because I don't like school. And I was like, "Cannot believe you pulled me out of science class," you know. And so my mom was like telling me this weird excuse, and then she handed me a halter and a lee rope. And she says, "Okay, go get Kahlua." And I was like, "Come on, that's like not even funny, you know." And so then he popped his head out of the horse trailer at the end of the driveway, and I let him on back. I was 12, he was a year and a half. And yeah, our journey kind of started there. We showed Morgans, we jumped. Then
What kind of Morgan classes did you show in?
We showed in Western.
Uh-huh.
We showed in the hunter style, and we also did road hack. And yeah, so he's kind of done a little bit of everything.
Okay. Okay, Matt. Matt, you look like you're at the vet clinic.
I am. I'm working. So is it echoing?
Not badly. You're fine.
Okay. So I got my horse Grace from Craigslist. A friend of mine had sent me her ad because I was horse shopping, and my reply was, "Ew, she's gross." So I didn't like her. So I vetted another horse, and that horse failed the vet check. So I ended up going to look at Grace, and she dragged me down the lady's driveway, and I didn't ride her. She was said to be broke to trail ride, but I didn't even try and sit on her. But she dragged me down the driveway, and I said, "I'll take her." So I was desperate for a horse at that point. So I brought her home, and
So Matt, what is she
yes.
breeding wise?
So she's a PMU baby. So we're not exactly sure. She was sold to me as 3/4 Percheron, quarter horse. But nobody can say for sure.
Well, there's definitely Percheron in there looking at her. Yeah. So going back to Alex, did you plan on developing him as a dressage horse in the beginning, or how did that journey start that you decided to do whatever with him in dressage?
So actually when I got him, I was told by the woman, "Oh, I think you could do like second level or something." And I was just like, I was 15. I was like, let's just get another horse, you know, and I had my own stables at home, so I was able to bring him home. But I didn't really have a plan. I just kept riding him and kept trying to learn more and more. And then I ended up getting the working student position with Mika. And that really obviously opened my eyes to everything in the dressage world, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing before that.
So let me interrupt you. Those of you that were on the call last week, that's Mika Mabragana that we talked to in Spain last week that
Yep.
she worked with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Hannah? Was it a plan to develop him as a dressage horse?
Definitely not. For one, I didn't really ride dressage when he was younger. We jumped, we did eventing and all that kind of fun stuff. And I had, at the time, I had a younger warm blood mare that was supposed to be like my next horse. We were both kind of new to it, but she was a project. She turns out never really stayed sound enough. And I was down at Lendon's winter intensive training, and anyway, she was just having numerous issues, and Charmer was stuck at home up north because I honestly didn't think he would ever be. I mean, I loved the pony and like believed in him, but I didn't think he was going to be my next FEI horse. Let's put it that way. So when obviously I didn't have another horse when my mare kept going unsound. So Lendon's like, "Bring him to Florida." I'm like, okay, we barely do training level. And he came to Florida, got clipped, and it kind of started there. I think, Lendon definitely pushed me to focus more on the basics, and he really taught me to ride well. And yes, it was hard at some times, and I still thought, oh, I'll just do FEI pony with him, and then I'll lease him, or then I'll just jump him. Well, the other horse never stayed sound, and kind of lucky for me, then I, really focused my training on him. And I think that's kind of when we had the chance to really focus on the dressage aspect.
Emily?
Absolutely not. Did not have a plan or a pipeline to make him a dressage horse. Same as Hannah, I was like jumping at the time. I was showing Morgans, And I mean, I can remember like my first dressage clinic, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool, you know. And so then it kind of just fired everything up, and I kept going to lessons with that same trainer. And yeah, I don't know, and there was never a thought that I would not ride him or not have him. So I was just like, well, let's just keep going. And then next thing you know, we were in a double bridle, and then, you know, you just keep going, and you look back and you kind of gasp a little bit because you're like, wow, I can't believe, you know. And yeah, but definitely there was not a thought in my mind that this was going to happen. But he definitely taught me, like Hannah said too, like how to ride, and he definitely taught me how to step outside of the box to kind of step back into the box. So he's been a fun trip.
Matt?
So 100% no, I never intended to make my mare into a dressage horse. I started doing some open shows with her, like equitation. The first year I showed her, she would slam on the brakes and halt at the in gate every time I'd get around the arena. So I had a very interesting start to the equitation and pleasure stuff with her, but no, I never intended for her to be a dressage horse.
So you all sort of started perhaps Alex had a little more dressage on her mind in the beginning, but you other three were certainly didn't have dressage on the mind. At what point in order to get your horse to the Grand Prix level, at some point there has to be some serious dressage training in there. What was there a turning point where you said, well, I think maybe I'll train him to Grand Prix? We're going to start with Matt. We're going to go the opposite direction now.
Okay. So I had shown Grace a very bad first level and had thought that was it. So I had started leasing a mare who I was supposed to bring down to Florida with me to do the WIT program. And Lendon saw her and said, she's not going to be sound enough. What else do you have? So I ended up bringing my mare Grace down to the WIT program. And that is kind of where everything started to turn. I started doing, as I said, a very bad first level with a horse that didn't move sideways. And I left the WIT program showing third level. So that was really kind of the turning point for me.
When you left the WIT program, so were starting third level, did you at that point say to yourself, I'm going to see if I can take her all the way?
Well, so I had told her at that point, if she ever got to third level, I would retire her. So I was actually at a horse show that Alex trailered me to, and I showed her third level, got a bronze medal score at third level, ran back to the trailer, said she never had to show again. And I get back to the barn with her, and she colics very badly. So at that point, I told her I was never going to tell her that she was going to retire again. So that's how we continued on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Alex? I'm mixing it up now. Where's Alex?
Probably my turning point was going to Mika's, getting that third level change. You know, everybody loves the changes. So once you get the change, everything just keeps going. And then I took a break and went home for a bit. And then Mika asked me to come down to Florida again for like 2.5 months. And I went down there, and then we started working on pirouettes and just playing around with things. And I don't know, I guess there wasn't really ever a point that I was like, I'm going to take this horse to Grand Prix. However, my dad did tell me if I ever got my gold medal, he would build me an indoor arena. So
ooh,
I'm waiting for that.
There's incentive. Wow, fantastic. Hannah?
I would say like Matt, definitely WIT bringing Charmer down there, and you know, he came down, you know, we sort of did dressage, sort of didn't go on the bit, but by the end of the season we did our first FEI pony test. I didn't even, at one point a couple people told me he wasn't fancy enough for the FEI ponies, and so I mean it wasn't a 70 FEI pony test, but I was like, you know, I can, like, I kind of was like the first time I like set my mind to something, like even if it isn't the traditional way, like if you work hard enough and you know, invest in the training. Like, it's definitely possible. You know, we qualified for pony championships, and after that, like, I thought kind of at one point thought that would be like our like max, but I mean, I didn't have any other horse, so I just kept chipping away at it. And my pony, like, he never said no. Like, he seemed to enjoy it, and we just kind of learned together, and it just kind of went from there. You know, we just kept working harder, and that would get eventually easier. We finally learned to rein back. We finally got the changes, and then we needed something else to learn. Now, I think if the pony, you know, had been unwilling, I would have, you know, said, oh, maybe that's too much for him. But I was just like, well, it's working out now. Let's just see where this goes, and making little goals at a time. And he still would prefer to jump, but he tries very hard.
Emily?
I think my turning point was in college, actually. I was still jumping pretty heavily through like my junior year, which when I think about it, it's really not that long ago. But yeah, I think I finished up my silver medal while I was at Findlay. And I think then after that, I was like, okay, like, let's just keep going. And now I want to get my goal, you know, like now I want to finish it. So like that was like a huge motivation too. And same like with Hannah, he's all I had, you know, so I was like, and he wasn't telling me no. He never tells me no, which sometimes he should. But, you know, he's such a good boy and we can keep going. So we did. And yeah, and, you know, he's just so cool.
Back in the dark ages, when I started out with Seldom Seen, who was basically pony size in a time that nobody ever rode anything small, and it was very controversial. Every year that I brought him out at a new level, I can remember very clearly warming up for my first class and being around all these huge warm bloods and thinking to myself, I don't belong here. You know, we don't belong here. This is not right. Did you ever have those feelings? Did you ever have a time that you thought this isn't right, or I'm going to feel foolish, or, you know, I don't want to continue with this? Did any of you have those negative times? Alex?
Yeah, a lot of negative times. I do remember, just relating to you, I remember CDI I did in Florida, and I followed Juan Matute Jr. in the young riders class. And, you know, I was thinking to myself, how can the judge even judge this? His horse is incredible. And here I come with my little thoroughbred, and ended up having one of the best rides I think I had at that time for the young riders. So it was fine, but I definitely, watching him warm up next to me was a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I mean, my horse typically has trouble in the show ring, and so he had a lot of meltdowns going along the way, and that always was hard. His brain was always the hardest piece for him. So
Yeah, he certainly had a difficult temperament. And just to, you know, tell me if I'm being unfair, but he's not much of a mover.
correct.
I mean, some thoroughbreds are big, long movers. Yeah. He's a pretty short-strided little mover. Hannah, how about you?
I mean, definitely having the only paint pony, trying to do a CDI Devon or show at Global is a little, sometimes you definitely feel like you might be looked down on, but I'd say it didn't last long actually for me. Like, once I really believed in my training program, and Charmer he has a great mind. So he always went in there, and we went in and did our best. Like, he was very consistent, and yes, he moves for like a 6, but you know, once we felt more confident at the level, I think when we got about to second, third level, I just kind of felt like, you know, we're actually doing this now. Like, well, he's a dressage pony. And since then, I honestly don't, like, I think as long as you pride yourself in your program and your pony and just go out there and do the best you can, I think that's probably my advice.
Absolutely. Emily?
Absolutely, 100% felt like that. You know, especially like warming up, like somewhere like Global, like you guys are talking about. You know, it's like you're trotting around and it's just like looking at everybody else. But you have to shake it really quick, because when you get inside your head, because it's happened to me, I go through a test and I'm just like, what the heck? What was I thinking? Like, I have to go in thinking like, I'm awesome, my horse is awesome, and we're just gonna go do our thing, like we're at home, you know. And so once I could like shake how to like get that out of my head and stop worrying about that I'm on like a 15 2-hand horse who thinks he's 17 hands, and just go do your thing, then it's way better. But it's hard, it's a mind game, at least for me it was, to kind of be like, oh, like I should be riding that. It's like, no, I should be riding Kahlua because it's perfect.
Super. Matt?
So I liked bringing my horse out in public. She was really unique. She was really cool. And I was proud to show her off. With that said, she was not an easy horse to show. So that part could be frustrating. But typically everywhere I took her, she always drew a lot of attention. So that was pretty fun for me. But there were definitely times where I thought, this is too hard. I don't want to do this.
We hear so often that, the judge hated my horse. I didn't get a good score because the judge hates my horse. Some of you were, actually all of you to one degree or another, were at a disadvantage because this is a sport for big, uphill, supple type horses. None of you had exactly that type horse. Did you feel overall that you were fairly judged, even though sometimes you got lower scores?
I did, yeah. If you put in a consistent test with minimum mistakes, I felt like they usually judged fairly. I mean, you didn't always win. If the big warm blood didn't have mistakes, but I think that's fair. But I felt like the judges were actually very encouraging overall to him, especially once we got to FEI. Yeah. So it's been a good experience. I haven't had any negative, except at the very beginning, and it was kind of me and but the pony didn't do any dressage then. But once, I had a good trainer and a support network that believes in me, I think it was mainly very positive.
Super. Alex, did you feel you were fairly judged?
Pretty much. Especially after going through the L workshop last year a little bit, I kind of realized how much they focus starting out just on the gaits first. So that already puts me way lower than the warm blood next to me. So exactly. I kind of was like, oh, that makes sense why it's so much harder to score, better scores than those warm bloods who make mistakes, but they still beat me even though I had a clean test. I also remember my very first show I had with him. I had a schooling show, and the judge actually got up and said, "You're riding this horse completely wrong." And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like 16 at the time, and I had only had him for a month. So when I first got him, if I just took up the reins at the walk, he would do step really bad. I mean, it still sneaks in sometimes, but I mean, it was literally, I just touched the reins and he's goose stepping. And she was nailing me for that. It's just like, okay. I don't even know him yet.
For those of you listening, if you don't know, goose stepping is when they walk and they kind of flip their front legs out in front of them. It's a very artificial, kind of cute, but very wrong way for a horse to walk. How about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think the judges were very encouraging as far as, because I never got any negative comments as far as like, you should be doing this, you don't belong here, those kinds of things. They would keep saying like, good effort or something like that, And a lot of times I would be like thinking about my test, and then I would be rereading the test, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I know that happened there, you're right, So, yeah.
Matt?
Yeah, I always felt I was fairly judged. Sometimes I didn't like that, but I was fairly judged. Yeah, a lot of the judges were really good about it. I don't remember the judge, but I remember one comment was majestic horse.
Ooh.
And yeah, so that was, I guess, an interesting comment. So
Alex said something, I think it's important for all of you. She commented that she did the L program last year, the Learner Judges program. And I think this is something, even if you never want to become a judge, it's a wonderful, the first part of the program, which is all lecture and a little bit of watching, is a wonderful way to learn what the judges are looking for. And it'll help you understand so much more about, again, what you're being judged on exactly and how the judges think. So I encourage everybody to participate in that when you can. How long was it for each of you from when you first got or started riding, in your case, Hannah, first got going with your horse until you were schooling Grand Prix? Emily, you want to start?
Sure. I think I want to say I started maybe actually focusing on dressage when he was 6 or 7, and we finally showed Grand Prix last year. So
How old was he?
he's 15 this year, so 14 last year, so at least 7 years,
Okay.
and continuing on, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so 7, 8 plus years.
Matt, how about you?
I think it was about 8 years, but I never showed my horse Grand Prix. I rode her
Right.
through the test at home,
Uh-huh.
the U25 test, but I never actually showed her. So it was
And
like
tell
8
everybody
years.
what she's doing now.
She's a Western dressage horse now, and she has the most incredible owner. So I made the really tough decision to sell her. And it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but it was the right decision because it gave me the opportunity to get another horse and try and continue on with my career.
And do you think it would have been really fair for her to keep struggling away with the Grand Prix?
No, that's why I called it. I mean, I had so much fun doing it at home and schooling it and posting Facebook videos of her doing 110Bs. That was really fun. But yeah, I made the right choice.
Yeah, for both of you.
Yep.
Hannah, how long let's say how old was he when you first started doing all of the Grand Prix work? Had you shown him Grand Prix?
No, I was
No.
going to this
You've
winter,
done-
but everything got canceled.
Yeah, but
I've
you've
shown
done the
I2.
Yeah.
He did the I2 at 10.
Okay.
He did progress. Like once he went on the bit, he progressed like surprisingly quickly, like quicker than I expected. He's like super smart pony.
Yeah.
Like we did the FEI pony one year and we did the Prix St. George the next year. And neither of us had ever done flying changes in our lives. That's kind of a miracle that worked out. But yeah.
And Alex?
I think Princeton was 16 when I started really focusing on the Grand Prix movements. And I think I showed him at the U25 then. It was with Liz. I did my first U25 when I was working with Liz Austin. But we didn't actually get our 60 until last year.
And how old is he now?
He's 20 this year.
Yeah, so he was 19.
Yeah.
As Hannah said, and I think this is the case with all of you, you were all teaching your horses to do things you had never done. Is that correct?
Yeah.
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 So how did that work? Let me say, what did you gain from that experience? Was it extra hard? Any comments on that, I guess I can say, because generally we encourage people to first have a horse that knows what it's doing so you can learn to do the movement so that your second horse is the one that you can train to do it. And of course, all 4 of you did it the other way around. Any thoughts on that, anyone?
I can say I got lucky about it because my horse was such a good boy and I was able to learn with him and he was safe and, you know, and like I said in the beginning, like he taught me so many experiences with so many people, like the people I trained with, you know, it's like we went down a lot of avenues to get to some places. And that was super cool because it's like you put a bunch of tools in your toolbox to help just one particular horse, but that can help, you know, some other horses that you deal with down the line. So he's definitely, like I said, led me down a lot of roads, which is nice.
Yeah, I would say having like a good trainer that has experience with that level, even if they're not riding your horse, is kind of the key. And just good eyes on the ground, consistent, you know, the same trainer, not a clinic with someone different every month, I'd say really helped me. And definitely just having a lot extra patience for your horse and for yourself, because sometimes I'm like definitely hard on myself than any horse ever would be. But like you just have to, you know, some days, one day, the most frustrating thing with me is like 1 week we would have like clean changes both ways, and then the next week I was like, I did everything wrong, I messed his pony up, whatever. But that's kind of part of the training, and I feel like learning that right from the beginning with a horse that I knew so well was very beneficial.
Alex, any comment?
I got lucky to sit on a few other horses occasionally in between my training to feel what it should feel like. And then, like everybody else said, having a trainer in your pocket. I mean, Mika helped me put the changes on him. And, you know, and just making sure that you're not too hard on yourself when you make a mistake. And thankfully, Princeton, even though his brain was tough, he was pretty forgiving. He came out the next day kind of, all right, what are you going to try to do to me today? So I think you have to really appreciate your horse in that way, because like you said, you don't know what we're doing and they don't know what we're doing. And it was just very difficult road for sure.
And I think because I know all of these horses to one degree or another, I think the other three all have temperaments and characters that are very much, let me, you tell me and I'll give it a try. Princeton certainly didn't quite have that temperament.
No, I always wonder how he was on the track, because I'm sure he was, so naughty.
Yeah.
But
you persevered.
Yeah, well, that, and I think the thing about Princeton is his brain hinders him. I think he could actually do a lot more than he, allows himself to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to bring that out of him. Believing in your horse for sure helps.
Yeah. One thing I should have done in the beginning. Can we go down the line? Alex, how old are you?
I'm 26. I'll be 27 in a couple weeks.
And Hannah?
I'm 20.
Emily?
25.
Matt?
26.
Okay. Now, I'm getting notes all the time from kids saying, you have to help me find a schoolmaster so I can go to the North American Championships. That seems to be the goal for so many young people. And I get a sense that many young people feel like, well, if I don't make the North American Championships, I'm nobody. I have to prove myself by going to the North American Championships. Now, 3 of you never did that. Hannah, you were able to do it sort of after your or alongside your pony with a warm blood. Of course, your pony wasn't eligible to compete young riders because you can't ride a pony in the FEI Junior, FEI Young Rider. How do you feel about that you missed that? Did you miss out by not having that schoolmaster and doing the North Americans? Is there a plus, a bigger plus or a minus? How do you feel about that? Who wants to start?
I can start.
Okay, Emily.
Yeah, I don't think for me it was a plus or a minus. It just didn't work out for me. I think by the time I was a junior young rider, that's when I really started getting into dressage and, realizing the avenues that you could take. And I was kind of pumped up and excited for something like that, because I was like, oh, that'd be so cool if I could do that. And the stars just never really aligned, and it's really expensive, and it's kind of like the time I was going to school and things like that. So I just kind of said to myself, enjoy your horse, and maybe you can just keep progressing him and see where he goes, besides Prix St. George. Maybe you can go to I-1 or I-2, or, not knowing a Grand Prix yet. And so yeah, for me, it was just like, well, that would be a really amazing experience. But I just kind of looked at the other side of things and be like, well, just keep progressing to I-1, or do that. And my plus was I saved some money, I think.
Anna?
Yeah, before Bella was donated dressage for kids and I had the opportunity to ride her, as long as I set goals for myself, I never really felt like I was missing out. Yes, my friends were doing NAYC and I was like, that's cool, and I was happy for them, but every horse you can get down center line, especially once you get to the FEI, you can learn so much from. And I honestly think it helped me. If you can do the Prix St. George on a not traditional horse, if that opportunity presents to ride the warm blood that already has some experience, everything, you'll ride better. You'll be more confident in the show ring. I honestly think it set me up for success. I don't think I could have ridden, this hot mare if I had, gotten her when I was 14. Just getting again, like take advantage of every horse you can sit on, whether it's, a training level or a schoolmaster. Like I think, definitely setting goals is the key. Like my trainer once said, she would be like, what is Charmer's Olympics? Like you have to have like, what's your horse's, like what's the best they can do? Like not every horse is going to go to the Olympics, right? But like, what do they love? Like, what do you want to strive for? So like this, like that just kind of put it a different perspective for me. Like at the time, maybe Charmer Olympics was showing third level, or, eventually learning to do one tempies. Like you just have to kind of make the best out of every horse's capabilities, and then you don't see it as a negative way.
How about you, Alex?
So I have a little bit of a different twist. I actually tried for young riders and I missed the team by 0.2, I think, percent. And it was really disappointing because that year happened to be the year that we had a huge young rider group in my region. And then, it was my last year to qualify. And I aged out of it the following year. And usually, if you make your qualifications in your region, at least in region 2, you typically made the team. So I was pretty disappointed about it because how cool would it be to be a thoroughbred at the Young Rider Championships, But you shake it off and you just keep moving. It just is what it is. And I'm sure there'll be other times that'll happen to me again.
Matt?
So.
I had definitely wanted to do Young Riders. I had a lot of friends that were doing it. So I wanted to do it. It just didn't happen. I didn't have a competitive enough horse. And yeah, I mean, I had wanted to, but it wasn't in the cards for me.
You've already covered this a little bit, but is there anything to add on what you feel is the advantage of struggling along training your own horse to this level, as opposed to, say, having the warm blood? I mean, some of you have already covered it. Is there anything you want to add, Matt?
I definitely think there's an advantage. I mean, I got a lot of good help and a lot of people that believed in me and gave me opportunities. I mean, I went to work for Madeline and Liz Austin, and they were the ones for me that kind of put making Grace into an FEI horse into my head. So yeah, I mean, I had a lot of people want to help me because they thought, it was really unique and I had a really cool horse with a big heart. And I got recognized for it. More so, I think, than if I was out there doing it on an average warm blood per se. I mean, after the following year after WIT, I mean, there was a 4-page article written about my draft horse in Warm Bloods Today. So that was really cool. So I got recognized for doing it, and people realized it was a lot of hard work and a lot of love, tears, heartbreak. So yeah, that was cool.
Alex, I know you got a lot of recognition along the way for your thoroughbred, your OTTB, as they say, off the track thoroughbred.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so I got a lot of recognition for that, which is great. And I think I would have not gotten that, like Matt said, if I was on your average warm blood, doing, the young riders and stuff. And I definitely think the advantage that I probably got the most is, learning to ride and think outside the box. I now have a young warm blood and I have to ride him totally different from my thoroughbred too. And now I can kind of say, I can kind of ride a thoroughbred and a warm blood. But, I find that actually a lot of times when I went to trainers that they struggled teaching me on him because I don't think they really knew how to work through his problems. And that's my advantage, is that I can really think outside the box when I come up with problems with other horses, whatever they may be, because I had a horse that wasn't your straightforward drive him forward into the bridle and get it that way, because he wouldn't tolerate that. Mm-hmm. So that's my biggest advantage, I think.
Did I get it? Emily, did you answer that?
Yeah, same with what Alex said, that he kind of gives you those like outside the box. And actually, when you just said that, now doing what I'm doing, I can help people outside the box, you know, like now that's another huge advantage too. You know, I have clients that have Morgans, quarter horses, walking horses, you know, so yeah. So I'm learning about that community, but so it's been super fun because, you know, they kind of know that I've taken different avenues, and so they can kind of come to me a little bit more. Maybe they feel that way, maybe they don't, but so it's been fun, like working with other ones and like learning new ones. So that's been cool.
Hannah, do you have anything to add?
Let's see. Yeah, like Alex said, definitely thinking outside the box and riding, like, you know, a more average type mover definitely teaches you how to ride well and ride and show a test accurately. Like, I think was the biggest advantage for me. You know, to get above a 60, you had to really put in the very solid test. You know, you had to get 8s on your center lines. I have to get an 8 on the rein back. So I think, and also, for me, it's really fun to inspire other pony riders or other people that have, you know, not a super crazy expensive warm blood, that, hey, look, it is possible. You know, you can show an FEI or get your bronze and silver medal without going out and buying a schoolmaster. So having people come to me and be like, thanks for the inspiration, you know, is for me, it just kind of reminds me like, wow, that was really a cool journey. It just makes it more worth it, I think.
Yeah. We have some, before I finish with my questions, we have some questions from those watching. And if anybody wants to put your questions in the chat. Haley Baker has asked, what was the hardest movement to teach your horse? Let's just go down the line. Hannah, you're up first. What was the hardest thing to teach Charmy?
Definitely the rein back. It sounds stupid, but Lendon can be my witness. It took him, also a word of advice, don't wait till your horse is ready to show second level to teach your horse to back. He backed when he was like a 3-year-old, and I just kind of forgot about it until he was 7. And he thought it was stupid because we'd always gone forward, and he like would not back. And I'm not kidding. Like, Lendon would be like pushing us back. His head would be up in the air. I could see his pink nose through his ears. It was so embarrassing. He did that act global in the pony tests. It wasn't until like we started trying to teach him in like January. It wasn't until like the next June or July that he would 90% of the time back up on the bit. Yeah, and this pony learned changes in like a month and a half. I don't know, but yeah, definitely the rein back.
I can attest to that. I have never seen a creature so completely and totally unwilling to back as
And
Charmy.
he's like a willing guy. He just didn't.
It was
I don't know if he
steady.
didn't understand. If he thought, I don't know.
How about you, Emily? What was the hardest thing to teach your little Morgan?
Definitely the piaffe, and still to this day the piaffe. He steps on himself, his front feet, terribly, and so we're still working on that he doesn't clip himself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely the piaffe.
Okay, Matt.
Everything was hard, but
no, not the changes, Matt. You did the changes easily.
Yeah. Okay. So the changes were easy. Teaching her to go sideways was probably the hardest thing for me. But I mean, everything was hard. I taught the horse how to medium trot by tying a plastic bag to a whip. And Liz Austin would come out in the arena with a broom for the passage. So, I mean, everything was just, nothing was easy. But probably the sideways, and I think, Lendon, you can attest to that.
Yes, for sure.
She kicked me off my first lesson and worked her in hand. But yeah.
Okay.
Everything.
But once she learned to go sideways, she was terrific. She just didn't think that there was any point to it. Right. And when you have a horse that big and heavy and solid, it's a little tricky to convince them. How about you, Alex? What's been the most difficult thing?
Definitely the passage piaffe, both of them. That horse, when you see a horse out in the field and they get all excited and they get that passage trot. I mean, even my quarter horse has a passage trot. That horse does not have a passage trot, even out in the field. So any lift I actually get with that horse, I am like, woo, finally, the leg came up a little bit. And the piaffe, we would always get really claustrophobic in, and that's still, something I have to be careful with. But he's been super lately, actually. But that's been the hardest. He's been so tricky in that.
Mm-hmm. So Megan asks, What would you do differently looking back, especially in regards to offering advice to someone who aspires to bring an unusual horse to Grand Prix without having done the Grand Prix oneself? So you're up there, Alex. What would you do? Is there anything you would do differently looking back on it?
Absolutely. The biggest thing that I think that when I look back, I'm like, man, the thing I wish I would have known was my horse's health. And Lendon, I remember you telling somebody saying like, my horse was lame when you first met him. And I actually didn't do anything about it. And I didn't know anything about ulcers or anything of that manner. And I think if I would have, you know, kind of helped him more in that way, maybe things would have progressed even quicker than they had. So really taking into account my horse's health and, you know, making sure that I'm doing right by him first and foremost. Not that he was like super lame, but it was,
No.
you know, he could have had a little hock injection to help him, you know, get his muscling.
But I think the muscling, when I first saw Alex when she was a working student for Mika, sort of trying to get to second level at that point, he looked sort of lame in four legs. I mean, and I've always been so impressed with the development, what the dressage work has done, the muscling and the suppling and the strengthening has done for him overall as a horse. It's just, you've done an amazing job with that.
Yeah.
Hannah, anything looking back that you'd do differently?
I think I wish I had more like confidence in myself and my horse, like right from the beginning. You know, I definitely doubted myself and doubted if I should even try to show him FEI. So I think like if you're gonna try to commit to it, like really full on, like believe in your horse and get a trainer that believes in you, and it'll be a lot easier.
Fantastic. Emily?
Looking back, I don't think I would do anything different because you have to kind of go through those ups and downs to kind of see what you see now. So no regrets. Can't have regrets.
Fantastic. Matt?
I'm with Emily. I don't think I would do anything differently. I mean, I had an incredible journey with Grace, and I had a best friend, helped me through my young teenage years. I wouldn't do anything differently. I mean, the outcome that I had with her was incredible, and I don't know what I could do differently to have gotten there.
I'm looking at the questions. Tegan, I think we've answered the question you put. If not, can you make another comment? Lexi asks, what do you think is your greatest accomplishment in your dressage career? Matt?
Oh gosh. I think for me, probably my greatest accomplishment is sharing my love for horses through my teaching. I think I have become pretty accomplished teaching a group of amateurs and throughout the state of Maine with draft crosses. I think that's been like a really big accomplishment for me. It was like starting my business and doing that.
Fantastic. Emily?
Yeah, definitely. I'm with Matt, you know, kind of forming your own business around what you love. I think that's a huge accomplishment, as well as, I mean, not to be like cliche because we're already talking about it, but, you know, bringing my horse up through the levels, that has been huge and helpful. So, yeah, I think those would be a big accomplishment.
Hannah?
I'd say, honestly, I've always gotten huge satisfaction out of just simple training. And I mean, obviously we all like to do well at shows, but you know, when the fur horse finally like understands, like when I finally could do a line of ones on Charmer, like that has to be like probably one of the best feelings, and or at any horse, but Charmer especially, because we just had such a deep connection and we understood each other. So when we both, you know, kind of took that understanding to a new level, like I've always find those are like the biggest accomplishments. Or like this winter in Florida, like he obviously doesn't have any natural suspension in his trot, and I finally could get like a passage. I'd go out in white fences by myself and turn towards home and trot, and he'd get a little excited, and that pony like learned to passage that way. Sometimes you still don't do it in the ring, but like I'm like, you can passage. Like for me, that's like a huge accomplishment, just to like think outside the box, like how, you know, because he doesn't, just to get him to understand it or get a little excited. Then he thought it was cool. He's like, this is fun. Now we throw legs everywhere. So yeah.
Cool. Alex?
Definitely getting my last Grand Prix score. It was a very hard journey with that horse. I actually, last year I was really thinking about just, you know, he's old and I don't know if we're going to do it. But I kept working on it and we did get it. The other accomplishment, like, that I feel that I, as a dressage rider, is that his brain has improved so much that I actually can now take him hacking and take him on trail rides through rivers and covered bridges and all of that. When I first got him, I took him on his first trail ride and he was drenched in sweat, chomping at the bit, jigging the whole time. So just like getting that relationship with him throughout his life, that I can actually like enjoy a trail ride with him now. It's pretty cool. So.
We have a question from Finley. What characteristic does the horse that you have do you hope to have in the horses in the future? And maybe I should say, what characteristic of the horse that you've trained here, maybe you don't want your horse to have in the future? Can I add to that? So from your training, what do you feel was part of your success or part of what made it more difficult? Alex?
You know, he's a little bit of the hotter type, which I now have realized I really like hot horses. My last warm blood was pretty lazy, and so I was like, I need a hot one like my thoroughbred. What characteristic I wish he didn't have is his rearing problems.
Yeah.
When he really loses it, he rears, and I don't like that at all. Nobody does, but
He's sort of claustrophobic.
Great. Yes, the claustrophobicness, exactly.
Hannah?
Charmer is probably greatest strength is his incredible mind to just like give it his best, and he has like a better work ethic than most warm bloods I've ever met. And so I think, you know, the trainability is really there, that really enabled us to progress up the levels as quickly as we could for as hard as it was for him. Something like his conformation, like obviously a horse that his neck is just as wide as it is long, it's not the easiest, but again, I feel like if they have a good brain and they're willing to try, you can kind of override those negative aspects of the conformation or the movement. You know?
Yeah, you've proven that. Emily?
100% my horse's personality. He's so fun to be around. He tries so hard. And yeah, it's just his personality. And I know I'm biased, but he's just so smart in the way he figures things out. You know, even just like going through things like a puddle or like an obstacle, the way he like thinks about it just cracks me up. He's so smart. Mm-hmm. One thing that would be nice if maybe his front feet weren't so close together. That might have helped us out. But he is what he is, and he's wide behind and he's close up front, so we still love him.
Yep. Matt?
I think for me, what I look for is heart. I mean, I've been very lucky to have some good horses that have a lot of heart, no matter the breed. I think after doing what I did with Grace, I think anything with heart, I can train up the levels. Anything that really tries and stays sound. I think what I don't look for, which I have had and I do have, is a horse that doesn't go forward, doesn't really have a natural desire to carry you forward, and that's very hard. It's hard to ride and it's hard to train.
So we have some very quick questions.
Can I add on that, Lendon?
Please, Alex.
Matt said about having a sound horse too. Princeton is very stoic for the crap that I know. That's, you know, he's got a lot of arthritis, and I think that's really important to have in a horse that's going to make it to Grand Prix. They've got to be stoic enough to handle some pain a little bit.
I agree. I mean, when Grace had her pre-purchase done, I mean, the horse never took a lame step, but she flexed a 3 out of 5. So she was like very stoic. And I mean, I didn't do any maintenance on her. Like, I didn't really know better. But she was incredibly stoic and really tried hard.
Okay, some quick answers. What's your favorite dressage movement? Matt?
Flying changes.
I knew that. Emily?
Massage.
Hannah?
Probably Tempe's.
Alex?
Canter pirouettes.
Ah, fantastic. And another just quick answer. When you first got your horse, did you ever think you would get to this level? I think you've sort of answered that, but Hannah, you're on the screen.
No.
No. Alex?
Nope.
Emily?
Nope.
Matt?
Never.
Okay, final question. What are you doing now? Alex, you're on the screen.
I am still riding Princeton because he likes it and he's actually doing the best he's ever done so far at 20 years old.
Do you plan to show him, continue to show him?
You know, I think I want to do a Grand Prix freestyle with him, you know, have some fun and kind of close out with that. But other than that, no, I might take him out and do some eventing, do something totally different.
Wow.
Low level, not crazy. You know, jump over a log is great. And then I've just been, you know, focusing on my own business and my new young horse that I got in September. So.
And where do you live? I never told people that.
Canton, Ohio.
Okay, and you have a training and teaching business?
Yep.
Yeah. And Hannah, what are you doing now?
I'm at home in Maryland, and I still have Charmer, and hopefully it's my goal to show the Grand Prix once the world opens back up. And yeah, I'm starting to teach more, and I have my other warm blood as well. And yeah, I'm supposed to start school in the fall, but I might defer a year and go work for someone because it likely will be all online anyway. So we'll see.
So you'd start college, you're saying?
Yeah, I have 2 more years left.
Okay. Okay, Emily, what are you doing now?
I still have Kahlua. We're still riding, working on my small business, training and teaching. And I'm also getting into some working equitation with Kahlua and a couple other clients. And
Fantastic.
I think that one time in February when she came, I can't remember her name, and I came over to the arena and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm quitting dressage and I'm going to work in equitation. It's so fun. So we've been having a lot of fun doing that.
So those of you listening, if you don't know about working equitation, look it up online. It's a lot of fun. It really is.
Cool.
And Matt, obviously you have something to do with vet work because you're sitting in a vet clinic.
So I work at a vet hospital in South Paris, Maine, which is a really fun job. And I work here and do some riding and teaching. And I kind of travel all over Maine to teach. And I have one horse of my own right now, kind of in limbo with. And then I ride another horse for my friend. She's like my horse, but I don't own her. And kind of in limbo with her too. Not really sure what our next step will be, but
so Matt, totally off the subject of this program, but since you're here, you're working in a vet hospital sort of as a vet tech, but have you trained as a vet tech?
I'm in school for it.
You're in school. So
Yeah.
you just sort of started and are learning on the job. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. And I honestly, it's a mixed practice vet hospital. So I initially only worked here one afternoon a week, honestly, because I had so many horses that I needed the benefits of having vet care at cost. So that was huge.
Interesting. Okay, well, our time is up exactly. Thank you all. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. I hope those of you listening have enjoyed it. And we will probably be doing another one coming up. So keep your eyes and ears open. And again, thank you four, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Lendon.
Lendon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.